so many leaders think that they have to have an answer. They have to be able to, whatever their team asks, whatever their team needs, they need to be able to give that to them. And so the more we can do to say, hey, the work we do, the work we're going to do is ambiguous. It's kind of gray. We don't have that black and white answer, the better off we are.
Welcome back to the CultureCon podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Zach. We're the co-founders of CultureCon and your host for the show.
This episode is part of a special series we created live on site in our podcast studio at CultureCon 2025 in Madison, Wisconsin.
To capture these conversations, we partnered with our friends at People Forward Network, our podcast media partner. A huge thank you to Nikki Lewallen Gregory, who stepped in as host for these live studio sessions.
These episodes feature real-time insights, stories, and leadership lessons shared during the conference, giving you a front row seat to the energy and impact of CultureCon.
And we're excited to bring you along. Let's dive into today's conversation.
Hey, it's Nikki Lewallen Gregory, and we're back live in Madison, Wisconsin at CultureCon 25, having a great time in the studio, and I am really looking forward to this topic today. I kind of feel like on the prep call, as we were talking, I was like, oh, we're doing that one. Like, we got to go this direction. So thank you so much, Coleman, for coming along with me to be able to go deeper on the importance and how to set leadership expectations that really stand, right? And then I think so many times I've experienced times in working with companies or in companies where all the leaders kind of operated differently. And I think it's somewhat easy to do because we assume, right? We'll assume like, oh, they got it, right? That's not the truth. So I'm so excited that you're here today. Coleman Williams is with me, Wrestling with Talent. Before you go anywhere, I'm actually so intrigued by the name. I feel like there's a story there. Wrestling with Talent. Tell me about that.
So, well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wrestling with Talent. So I'm a huge professional wrestling fan, right? I say it out loud. And my business partner, Maggie, and I started this a couple of years ago, and we're trying to come up with a name. And I was joking and said like Wrestling with Talent. And like we kind of laughed about it, but it's like, it's literally what you do. Like when you're in the HR, when you're in the people space, you wrestle with like everything that's going on. Like you want to have the best experiences, and it kind of stuck. So it goes back to my love of professional wrestling. It goes back to like the work that we're doing. And so that's what it's been. And we have so many people like, oh, how'd you come up with the name? And it's like love of wrestling and love of people.
Oh, it's so good. And I'm like, a really great podcast name, right? A constant conversation of wrestling with talent, all these different stories. So cool. Can't wait to dig in a little bit more to this topic around setting leadership expectations. And let's start with, during our prep call, I only ask questions that bring up topics that people really care about, right? So this came up pretty quickly and I was like, oh, let's go there because I've done a lot of episodes and really not dug into that. Why did that come up, or why is that such an important topic for you?
Yeah. So we work with a lot of clients that they need leadership development. They're asking for leadership development. We have a manager accelerator program. But when we go to say, hey, what is it that the behaviors you want to see out of their leaders, they use their competencies, but they won't really dig into it. Mm-hmm. So even from how often should a leader be having a one-on-one, very basic, right? Like we're talking about table stakes at this point.
Yeah.
They won't say it out loud. Like, and you're talking to chief people officers, you're talking to CEOs, and they're like, well, they need to be having one-on-ones. How often? Well, what do you think? And again, it's not our decision. It's their decision. It's what do they believe that their leaders need to have. We can make recommendations, and we absolutely do make recommendations. And so we'll be like, well, really, if you can have one-on-ones weekly, like you should be having the one-on-ones weekly. Well, that's a lot. We have some leaders that have a lot of people reporting to them. Okay, well, bi-weekly. And a lot of times it turns into they want to make, they're trying to create the guardrails for the exception and not all of the employees. So they may have a leader who right now has 20 plus employees because someone left the company. They're just taking these folks on for a little bit. And it's like, well, we don't want them to have a one-on-one every single week with all of their people. They'll never get it done. Absolutely. We agree. But again, it's just saying it. It's saying something out loud and saying, hey, this is what we expect from our leaders. So again, one-on-one is table stakes for entry for this. But then it's like, what else should their leaders be doing? What types of conversations? They should be talking about development. They should be talking about setting goals. they should even be saying where they want these people to like have these conversations and document these conversations. And it feels like we have, in a lot of the companies we're working with, we have a culture that's scared to say that this is what you want because they feel like they're micromanaging.
Mm-hmm. I think before we go any further, it's important to see the outcomes that happen when we don't have expectations. I mean, from a macro level all the way down to a micro level, if these expectations are assumed or not given, what happens?
Yeah, if they're assumed and not given, you're hiring people to your company from other companies. You're hiring people into leadership positions who have never been a leader before, and they're either going to mimic behavior from past leaders or behavior from past companies. And so now all of your leaders are leading differently. There is, or can be, an assumed unfairness for the employees, the teammates within the company. And so it does turn into a little bit of chaos. And it's like, well, this is a great leader. This is a terrible leader. And like, but what are the, again, it goes back to the word exceptions. What are you expecting this person to do? And really your leaders, they want those expectations. Like, again, they don't want to be micromanaged. They don't want someone sending them a Slack message, a team message every 10 minutes saying, this is how you have to do something. But they need to know the parameters that they need to operate within.
Yeah. Yeah. And the word like standards, like here's our standards. Here's the way we do things around here. How do you create that? How have you seen companies create that well so that they've got the, I don't know if the word is blueprint, but here are the expectations, and then taking them from there, like once you define them, create them. And then we'll talk about like, how do we bring them to life? But how do you even get started or button up the actual expectations that you document?
Yeah. It starts with a conversation of what are their leaders not doing well? And again, going back to CEO, CPO, like, what are they hearing that their leaders need to do better, do differently? What are their frustrations? You start to list what it is that they see, what they think is not happening or should be happening. And then it's like, okay, how can we start to put this in place? But how can we not just say, this is all the new things you have to do? You have to put things in place slowly, and also kind of looking at the calendar. What's coming up? Performance reviews are coming up. Here's how we should be having performance conversations. Goal setting is coming up. Here's how we should goal set. And again, where should this be documented so that every leader is doing the same thing, so that if you have an employee transfer from one team to the other, those standards, if you will, that blueprint is in place. The employee knows what to do, and the leader already knows where to find that information.
Mm-hmm. You know, we just had a company in here that was sharing about their living values and them being so unique to what they do. One of the examples is every single employee gets a coach at all levels. Everyone gets a coach, and they work through an outsourced company that works with them really tightly so that they can staff enough, right? That gives everyone in the company the same opportunity to grow. You get the coach, and then there's other components. You know, I was just thinking, if we don't set leadership expectations in a way that employees get a universal experience, because you might have one leader who's had a lot more experience and they know how to do one-on-ones well and on cadence and, you know, all that. And somebody else that's like, I haven't talked to my manager in like a month, right? And it's not fair to the experience, like the employee experience. Curious your thoughts on just where your head goes with, I mean, we want to create an experience that the employee experience is standard. It's what can be expected from onboarding all throughout. How does that come up in these conversations?
It comes up usually whenever someone like engages us, there's already some type of chaos going on in the company. Or it's this is how we always do it. Also through engagement surveys, right? Engagement surveys are huge. We partner with small to very large companies, but especially in kind of your startup space, your Series B to C space, they're just starting to do their first like set of engagement surveys. And so you hear those leaders and they're like, our employees aren't happy. And so it's like, well, why aren't they happy? And we can work with them to dig into like what their data results are more to figure out what it is that needs to be put in place or what's missing.
That's great. Let's go down this path of accountability. And I know we talked before when we were prepping for this around micromanagement, which no one wants to be and we would not advise for, versus guardrails,
Right.
and I think a huge piece is like knowing what we want out of our leaders, like setting those expectations. We got to do that work first. And you just gave us some pointers on that. But from the accountability for follow through, not micromanaging, but the guardrails to see this through, what does that look like?
We exist with guardrails. Like we exist with rules and laws already as a society, as people. And so here's how you need to operate within these parameters. People need that. From the time we're children, we're taught like, you should do this, you shouldn't do this. Here's how you need to act. Here's how you need to behave. And again, this is creating the same thing for leaders. I'm not saying they're children, but creating the same type of like rigor for them to say, hey, like operate within these parameters. Yes, you can still err over here. You can err on this side, like move one way or one direction or the other, but it has to be between this. Going back to the one-on-ones, it's like you should do one-on-one every 2 weeks, but I want to do them every week. I can do them every week.
Yeah.
Right. And it's the other things that come along with that and the other expectations that you can kind of set, the guardrails that you put in place of how much flex do I have as a leader versus like, this is a company, we're saying you have to do that. And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you share another example or two of what that looks like, a guardrail? I love the example of the one-on-one. Yeah. Another example or two, and we might go a little deeper on some questions around that.
Yeah. Another one would be goal setting. Companies that we've worked with have been notoriously bad at goal setting. And it's because they set the goals at the beginning of the year and they're not looked at. The conversations aren't happening, or the leaders aren't having regular conversations with their employees about what the goals they set, how they're tracking to progress. And so just saying like, you need to talk about the goals monthly, just have those conversations and reset. Like, does this goal still make sense? Has something happened that's changed? Like when we're going to achieve this goal? Did they even set achievable goals to begin with and making sure that they have that in place?
Yeah.
But again, notoriously bad at it because they just don't want to say like, here's how your goal has to be written and here's how often you need to discuss that.
We want to give a quick thank you to our friends at Culture Shape. They're really helping people and culture leaders design and deliver higher impact programs through a single source.
Yeah, and one of the things I love is their culture wheel. It's a 12-month visual calendar that makes it easier to plan, organize, and communicate culture programs across the whole organization. It's a simple way to get stronger buy-in and support.
And right now we got a really cool promotion for our CultureCon podcast listeners. You can get 50% off a one-on-one 4-week online consulting program with Pete Savage, Culture Shape's CEO. These spots are limited, so if you're interested, head to cultureshape.co/CultureCon to grab your place.
So, for example, we make sure that we're having a conversation once a month around the goals and that those goals are documented. But if someone, the leader, wants to apply their SMART framework versus they have this favorite book that they've used for many years, right? That gives them their own ownership to bring it to life in conversation with how they apply it.
Yeah, absolutely. And take that a step further. You could say we want to apply the SMART framework to all of our goals at the very beginning for everyone.
Yeah.
And then now you know how your goal has to be written. Now, everyone can look at everyone's goal and it's written the same way. So you can do it either way. You can say that you have to have it and then you can build on it and give even more guardrails to it as it grows.
When you think about the experience you've had with bringing leaders in, like acquiring talent, bringing leaders into a team and setting it up from the beginning when they're the new leader coming into that organization solo versus how we create it for all. What does that look like? Maybe some best practice tips like done well.
I mean, that goes back to the start of this conversation is you bring in a new leader or you promote someone to a leader. If you don't have a framework in place, if you don't have guardrails in place, how do you onboard that leader? Like, what do you say? Hey, here's your team. And then like, here's what your department does, but what are the leadership expectations? What are those guardrails? They don't have them.
Yeah.
So when you have that in place, it's very easy to pull an onboarding together for those leaders to say, as a leader, here's what we believe you should do. Here's how we believe you should behave, act. Here are the tools and processes that you have in place.
Curious if you have any unique components to onboarding, like that you're like, this is really cool. We've really loved watching our client do this particular component that helps the leader integrate better. One example that I was just thinking of as I was like, oh, what would that look like if the new leader gets an opportunity to network, like they pair with other leaders in the organization to then kind of be a peer mentor or whatever. So they're fast tracking learning from someone that's already applying this, right? Maybe that exists somewhere. But what are other like initiatives included in onboarding that you found to share? Like they're valuable.
Something unique and fun that I think we're doing right now, or we've started to do more of, is actually introducing AI. So everybody's trying to like figure out like how to introduce AI into their companies. But if we can take a leader onboarding and we can put in like, these are the expectations, these are how you should act. We can create conversations in the AI that uses those guardrails, that uses these parameters. And now that new leader, as they onboard, can have a conversation in a safe space with a AI employee, and then they can get a report card from it. And then they can go back through if they're like, oh, okay, I didn't score that well, or I don't understand this. And then the AI can actually coach them on how they can think different.
Oh, well, taking that another step further, it's like, hey, you might be assigned 2 mentors or peer mentors that are leaders, but you have a 24/7, key buddy that's with you. That's really cool. And particularly when it's all set up to be, I say, on brand with like all of our standards and everything. What a cool way and such a fast track opportunity. So you all do that in the work that you do, like you set those up at wrestling.
Yeah. And we're trying to, and so instead of like, we don't have a tool, we're not building AI tools. We're trying to work with companies and saying, what is your approved AI platform? And taking their approved platform, we will partner with them to build out.
That's cool.
So again, that way that's not an extra cost associated with having to come in and bring in a new or different tool.
Yeah, I love that. So Coleman, in every episode in the studio, we are talking about AI, because if we don't, it's like, oh my gosh, they missed something. Like it's totally a must. I love your angle of this and the work that you're doing in your company to really make AI more, I don't know, palatable, embracing for people, because the challenge is, I think the stats say 70% of people leaders, HR, they're fearful. You know, there's so much fear and uncertainty, and that's the pushback. I love that you're talking about like you're really integrating that into the onboarding experience. So it's like, it's not a mystery. It's like, here's how you're going to use it. And you're already practicing. We've set this up for you. I think there's a lot of power there to overcome the fear, which is the big challenge. But let's go in this direction of overcoming challenges, uncertainty. Like, how do we navigate that uncertainty best as a standard in leadership? What have you learned about that? Or how do you guys help with that?
So when it comes to uncertainty, Maggie and I talk a lot about this. We go to different conferences, and we bring up this time that we were on a porch or a patio, and we were having a drink, and all of these bees just started to swarm. And we were like, what is happening? And there was this gentleman who walked up, and he was like, oh, it's fine. They'll calm down and they'll find a post to land on because they've lost their queen. When there's uncertainty in a business, we tend to swarm. There's a leadership change, like someone that was key to the business just left. There's layoffs, whatever it may be, we swarm. And one of the things that I think we're really bad at as businesses is, one, giving people their space to swarm, right? They need their opportunity to just like express their frustration. And then whenever they've had that opportunity to express their frustration, then making sure that we're very clear on what's next, making sure that we're clear on where the business is going to go next. Too many times, especially like if it's a layoff, usually your C-suite has been talking about this for weeks, months. They know that it's coming, and then they're ready to move on. The moment that it happens, they're ready to move on. And so anyone who's making those decisions, I would absolutely encourage, yes, you've been talking about it for weeks and months and you are ready to move on, but it's brand new. People just lost their friends, not just their coworkers. They lost their friends. They're going to have to take on new roles, and give them their space, and then make sure you have a very clear direction on where you're going next.
That's really good advice. And, in today's world, there's so much change happening every day, and so much every day. and things that sometimes break our hearts or make us angry or sad. And other times we're just navigating like this uncertainty. And I love that you are reminding us of giving the human opportunity to just kind of feel through that, but not too long, giving direction and clarity and making sure that they know where we're going from here, right? I think sometimes we rush that too much.
We forget people have feelings.
Yeah.
And people are allowed to have feelings.
Yeah.
It's let everyone have their feelings and then work with them on how to move forward. Look, we've all been upset. We've all had things that have happened, no matter what it is in life, but we probably have that person we can go talk to, that person that will listen to us and go to them. We have to have that in our businesses too.
Yeah. And tying back to kind of put a bow on what we talked about today with leadership expectations, we shared in the studio earlier in another episode, the power and importance of doing the deep work as an individual, no matter who you are, but particularly as a leader. It really shows up. It's a reflection, right? And we can only go as far as like there's a glass ceiling for how our leadership is prepared, right? And the work that they've done. And I just kind of see here where, there's opportunity to figure out how do we as a standard help leaders do the inner work, because navigating change is really hard and it's happening all the time. But like, what's our standard for how we do that? I think that's a lot harder than like, here's our playbook on the one-on-ones, but when challenges happen and how we give space and how we have those conversations, it's a little harder to package that. Right. I don't know if you can take a stab at like how to do that, but I think it's needed.
Yeah. It's ambiguity, right? I think one key thing that every leader needs to be equipped with is understanding how to handle things that are ambiguous and knowing that they're not always going to have an answer. Even as a leader, it's okay to say, I don't know. I need to find out the answers. So many leaders think that they have to have an answer. They have to be able to, whatever their team asks, whatever their team needs, they need to be able to give that to them. And so the more we can do to say, hey, the work we do, the work we're going to do is ambiguous. It's kind of gray. We don't have that black and white answer, the better off we are, right? And because one, if the team hears, okay, we're going to try to figure it out, or you feel the same way about it, they feel a little bit better, because otherwise they're all over here operating in this space of like, they're tense, they're stressed. And it's like, they hear that you don't know either. It's like, oh, okay, well, if they don't know, we don't know, we can still, there's a way to figure this out.
So good. Well, Coleman, I really enjoyed learning with you today. I think this was a really powerful topic, and one that in the 8 years of podcasting, I've never had an episode just on this. So really powerful stuff. If you were to give us this golden nugget takeaway, this thing that you really want to challenge leaders around having expectations, right? What is that nugget of advice?
Going back to where we just were, things can get ambiguous. If we have the expectations in place, we have those guardrails in place, it can make it feel a little bit less ambiguous.
Yeah.
And so start to just put those things in place slowly. Again, you don't want it to feel like micromanaging. You go try and put a whole new set of expectations in place for everyone tomorrow. They're going to feel overwhelmed. Then they're going to feel like you're micromanaging. But just slowly start to change your habits for your team. And if you can influence your company, go that direction too.
I love that reminder not to rush into it. It's a big thing, and your leaders are the change makers in your organization, and being able to bring them along rather than push them through it. Love that. So good. Okay. Well, before we head off, how can people connect with you, and what's the best way, and anything that we want to link in the show notes?
Yeah. Best way to connect is on LinkedIn. You can find me, Coleman Williams, or you can find Wrestling with Talent. Also, www.wrestlingwithtalent.com.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate it.
That's a wrap on this episode of the official CultureCon podcast.
If you got something out of it, share it with a friend, a teammate, or a fellow culture geek.
And don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And if you want more ways to stay connected and inspired, check out our upcoming events page for a full listing of webinars, workshops, and conferences.
You'll find the link in the show notes, and we'd love to welcome you to a CultureCon event soon.
Until next time,